what happens when two people in the same field chose to complement each other and not to compete with each other. There's a beautiful strength, in homes where intellectuals, thrive well, with one another without rivalry, where ideas are exchanged respectfully, where growth is also mutual, where there's a king and a queen, each confident, in their own personal space, owning their own individual identity, but still understanding that there's power with both of them coming together, looking out for each other. And that's where my husband comes in today. And I want to use this medium to say many thanks to Dr. Reuben Abati, my own very Ruby. He has continued to evolve, not only as a public intellectual, but also as a mentor, as a role model, but more importantly, as a man who has power of character, which is one of the books that late Dr. Masmo have written. We have many people in the corridor of power, but we don't have men of power of character. And I believe that it starts from your own. And today, not because he's sitting next to me, not because of the role he plays as a national figure, but the fact that, he's somebody that I can vouch for, with a man of integrity. And I want to say thank you so much for holding that light, that badge for every one of us to be able to follow. It's a big honor to be your life partner, and I want to say thank you. And I remain unbroken, as my next publication will speak more on that, and making people understand that you can find love at 40, at 45, at 50. Love can find you again, but making sure that you have the economic power. I feel that where many women tend to lose that path when they find themselves in such situations is because they do not have economic power. I've always had that economic power. Maybe that's the reason why I'm going to file for divorces. But I think that those economic power is what gives you that alternative to actually say that, I need to make the change. I want the best for my children. I want the best for myself. And without all of this, I don't think that would have been who I am today. I don't think that would have bettered even my TV or my radio talk show, because my reversion to media was during visitation in courtrooms and the likes and all of that. But who would have thought that in all those seasons that I would have had a better rebuild and a better life today, that I'm so thankful to God and grateful to God that my scars have healed, and it have healed from the badge of victory, from the badge of making the better choice, and from the badge of, a man like a Reuben Abati chasing me head down.
We also have in this country the literary festival in Port Harcourt, which at the time, in fact, won international recognition, and Port Harcourt, the Garden City, was recognized as the book capital of the world. But over time, all of that disappeared, and I couldn't go to reading sessions again because there were no longer so many. It was only recently I ran into Mr. Okun of the Association of Nigerian Authors, who still organizes. So we now have the kind of thing I used to see in Washington, D.C. when I was a student in Maryland. Bookshops like this don't just sell books. They also bring authors, they bring people who exchange ideas. So I would like to congratulate Latana Books for putting this session together. Because you know what they say. They say if you don't want a black man to know about anything, just put it in a book. But there are also people who recognize that reading makes the man. Francis Bacon, that to know the worth of a man, you judge him by the kind of literature that he reads. So to the extent that, you are not just selling books, you are also promoting the culture of reading, the culture of literacy. I think that in itself is a major, corporate social responsibility, civic responsibility, business, entrepreneurship with a social conscience. And, that, for me, is the importance of what Atanda Books has decided to do. Now, secondly, of course, my wife has talked about publications. She's one of the people who encouraged me. She said, President Jonathan had messed up Nigeria, and you, his advisors, were the problem with Nigeria. Today, 10 years later, the same Nigerians are praising President Jonathan. Some are even saying, oh, President Jonathan should come back to rescue the country. But I take all of that as part of the challenge that you face when you try to work in the public space. And Nigeria is still evolving, we're still learning, but the more appropriate time will come when I will go beyond, how the government of President Jonathan emerged and my own experience and what has happened there. Well, just basically documentation of social history, because journalists write history in a hurry. And when you do these commentaries, you are also documenting society. Some of the profiles of persons that have written here, some of the persons have died. Some of them over 10 years ago. Who in Nigeria today remembers say Adelabu or Adidibu or many of the persons that have passed. And you meet some young persons, and you talk about MK Abiola, they ask you, who is he? Or you mention Kudirat Abiola, they will say, who is that? I'll say, they don't teach you Kudirat Abiola in school. Your teachers have never mentioned MK Abiola. You say, well, what is important about them? Why should I know who they are? So the whole idea of constructing and reporting history is that future generations can have some kind of reference. And then of course, all those social pieces in a love letter, those things still happen now. We still have beggars on the road. We still have churches on the expressway that block the highways. We still have love issues, relationship issues. And people will say, so this happened to so year. But it will also happen in the years to come. So to that extent, that will be one value. The second thing, of course, will be students of literature, students of journalism. They teach them things like column writing, editorial writing. So I guess it will be useful also to such persons. And then with the kind of little notoriety that I've gained in the course of this my, up and down, waking up early to write and all of that. I assume that there may be some students, some intellectual scholars who may want to say, okay, this Reuben Abati, what has he done? So this provides them primary material to look at for purposes of research and to also engage with the efforts of the.
One of them said, oh, Kike, I granted an interview recently with my husband, and one of them said, oh, Kike, you should have condemned them, you should have said they should go for counseling, how would you say certain things? So I said, okay, let's draw all the curtains. What if, God forbid, we like to bring God factor in Nigeria, that your son happens to be gay? Are you going to condemn the child? Does that mean the child is bad? It could be that either the values or the morals imbibed wasn't enough. It could be that he found himself in an environment where he's confused. So it doesn't make your child bad. It comes down to parenting. It comes down to the foundation. Hence the reason why I feel that, at some point we are quick, to want to evolve with Obodo Yibo, pardon my word right now, but we also need to actually unlearn certain perspective so that every one of us can live peacefully and truthfully in the way that they genuinely want to live in Nigeria. And the last thing that I would like to say is the lessons for me. I know that at the beginning of my marriage with my husband really struggled with the fact that I can just climb the pulpit and say I've been divorced twice. And I can see him shrinking like, hey, must you say everything? Everybody have their own, challenges here and there. I want to encourage, parents now, mothers, fathers, to raise children where they can speak up. The reason why many of these challenges have continued to become a culture in our environment is because we have not given them an enabling environment where they can speak up. I'm grateful to God that I'm being raised by parents who are saying, be you, say whatever you want to say, but understanding that you must put certain things into consideration, which is the dignity and integrity of yourself and your family. And that's the reason why I'm raising my children the way I'm raising them today. And many times, to be in partnership with my husband, who understand what intentionality means with the environment that we are in, with the help of technology. There are so many things that you are not telling your children, but they are learning from their colleagues, from the technology out there.
Is that whatever happens between a couple and you have children, don't pull down the roof. Because I imagine some men who dress down their wives. Sorry to use Yoruba language, but you have children. So what becomes of those children? They are stigmatized as well. Once you've branded their wives, or the wife brands the husband in irredeemable terms.
I'm a victim of divorce, but not an advocate of one. So I know it's hard going up and down, stressing you to court, somebody calling you to advise you to do this. Deep down, you have a lot to do. You have a lot to think. You have a lot to act on. So our society does not really support divorce, most especially in Yoruba. Yeah, and they will tell you, you are more this kind of taboo is taboo. But at the long run, it's better for all to sit down. According to Dr. Olaguju, don't put down the roof. That was the metric I used then. After 2 years, I just called my wife and said, Diola, please, let us forget this. You know I don't talk to you. What do you want? I came this and well, okay. Just accept, I'm doing everything for you.
What if in Africa it's allowed that for women to marry two husbands? Will it be allowed? Someone like Reuben Abati will tell you that opera positive when you don't understand. For my non-Yoruba listeners right now, it means that they are going to buy coffee for the person's family will buy coffee for him. So if you cannot accept certain things, why dish it out to another person? When Islam said, "Can you be equal?" The question is, can you truly be equal? Can I even be equal amongst my daughter, amongst my children? I'm still struggling to be equal with them. So why deceive ourselves? Why try to just change the journey of another woman who did not actually plan herself to be in the arms of her husband with another fellow woman? I think that it's not fair when we continue in this kind of narrative. It's either you are transparent from the get-go with your significant other to say that, you know what, I'm a polygamist, I'm going to marry another person. So it's not for her, baby, she's with you for other reasons, and the reason why she's going to stick around with that journey, or to say, you know what, this is not what I want for myself. I do not want this path, and I do not want a reputation of it for my children.
So Titus 2 says, let the older women teach the younger ones how to behave. And I think that should apply to the men too. Because in the Bible, it's not just about female or male. It applies to everyone.
Up till now, you were unbroken truly.
That's right.
You were unbroken truly, which is actually the strength of a woman that you have demonstrated. Continue in that stride under the canopy of God Almighty. Well done. You've done so well. To Doctor.
Children's access to it. I think Lagos State recently said something in that direction that they've not acted upon. Now, in places like Australia, UK, New York, the state of New York, and other states in the United States, they are taking up the big techs, all these Google, Alphabet, to tell them that, look, you have to restrict access to children that are below either the age of 15 or below the age of 16. But here, we just allow our children free range to have access to all kinds of stuff. And the argument in other jurisdictions is that there is a lot of harmful content online, apart from the fact that they will not pay enough attention to their schoolwork. Then of course they can get involved with all kinds of things. There are all kinds of pedophiles who are Epstein-like characters who are on the internet. So I just thought that for sanity in society, we need to address that. And that is linked to the point that the person who made the comment was referring to about teaching our children to develop a culture, a habit of reading. One of the things I have realized in this society is that the younger persons these days, they find it very difficult to read anything that is more than, how many words do they have? 24 words. That's what they do on Twitter, right? Okay, they've increased the verbiage now. But if you give them a material, like a novel or a book to read, they will find it so difficult. Whereas in our time, we were brought up to read. In fact, who is still reading newspapers these days? When you give young people newspapers, they will not drop it. They will say if they need news, they will get it from their phones. Build our country. After all, it was Francis Bacon that said that reading maketh a man. The more books you read, the more knowledge you acquire, the more new horizons that you discover. And I would like to thank everyone who has been here. Quite an impressive turnout, very much to our surprise. Thank you very much.
But it's not going to start with government. It's going to start with us parents. That's why the schools now say, most schools tell you, it's you and us. We can't do it alone. The children only spend maybe 4-6 hours in school. Now at home, what happens? Is it the nanny? No, it's the parents. And I remember Mrs. Taisholan, at one of the Wimby's programs, she said, one of the things, she had 6 points, and number 6 is, please go back and let's get the children to start reading. Because what's happening now is that they're cutting and pasting. So that's why somebody mentioned zombies. They just cut and paste. You want an answer? No thinking. No more thinking. What is that going to do to the generation after them? You can't even imagine. So until we get, there are many book clubs around, but people don't know about them. And I pray that for this session, let's tell ourselves that what can I do to transform this society? The big things start with the small things. It starts with us. We have a coffee shop here. If you think you want to impact lives, it's free. Bring some people here. Bring the men here. Bring the young men here. Because they just love football. Most of those young guys, they love football, they cut and paste, they love computers. And I don't know what's going to happen, but it's a call for action, both mothers and fathers. And I say all of us here, once a month, 2 hours a month, let's find time for these children around us. Because our parents found time for us. That is why we are what we are. So what's going to happen to the next generation is something to please take away. And we are looking forward to more people coming to do book reviews, or even taking a book here and reviewing with young children. Invite them here. And by the time they leave here, they will also impact somebody else. Real talk diary quotes. Real talk diary quotes. Unbroken. Owning my worth of honor and respect through the mind. You might be a woman going through so much, and you're wondering, who do I talk to? You could read the book. Encounters, Governance, Policy, and the Society. By Kikelomo, Atanda. Please do not leave here without buying one of the book, and also taking pictures with the
We sure hope you enjoyed this video. For more entertaining video content such as behind the scenes of music videos and movies, music concerts, premieres, interviews, and exclusive gists, subscribe now to our YouTube channel Goldmynetv and be unleashed into a world of super excitement.